Hey audience, how's it going? And welcome back to another Diablo 4 video. Today we are going to be looking at the Trample Slide Druid. Trample Slide this season is going to be very good with the aspects and uniques that they brought into the game, and overall I feel like it's going to be amazing in the end game. This is going to be a mid-game build, so you will need a few aspects to get yourself started, but once you get those aspects you will be able to do higher tier content. I will be making a version of this build at tier 100 because, as I said, I feel like this build is going to be amazing endgame. So if you want to see them videos, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and let's get right into the video. So the first thing that we're going to be going over is the gear and the aspects for our build. So there's 4 aspects that I would highly recommend for this build, but there's 3 that you definitely need for this build. So the 3 that you definitely need for this build is going to be: when the Nature's Fury key passive triggers a free skill, your non-ultimate cooldowns of the opposite type are reduced by a certain amount of seconds. This is a must-have. It's called the Aspect of Symbiotic. It's a must-have for this build. You will need it because all of your skills are going to be cooldown skills, and if you have this, you're going to be able to spam these abilities. Now, the second aspect that you will need is going to be the Aspect of the Trampled Earth. So this aspect gives you the ability that your trample now summons 6 landslide pillars of earth during its duration that deal damage. Trample is now also a nature magic and earth skill. So this is a very must-have skill because you will be needing the nature magic on this to get rid of your cooldowns on your other abilities. So I would highly recommend it, and it is a must-have for it. And the last aspect that you need for this build is the Subterranean Aspect. Now, this aspect gives your Poison Creepers the ability to cast Landslide as well. Earth skills also deal more damage to poisoned enemies. So Poison Creeper is going to be the ability that we use to poison our enemies, and then you will also do more damage because those enemies are poisoned. It's a very good ability, and I would recommend it for this build. Now, this is the last aspect that I would recommend for this build. It's called the Aspect of the Aftershock. Landslide's earth pillars each strike a second time and each deal an additional damage per hit. So basically what that means is that if we use our trample and we have the aspect that our trample does landslide, those landslides will strike a second time and do additional damage. It's very good, but that also works with our Poison Creepers landslides. So it's going to be doing more DPS for us. You do not need this aspect, but I would recommend it if you want to do more damage. So now I'm going to be going over the rest of our aspects on this build. So we're going to be starting off with our helmet, the Aspect of Quicksand. Damage from earth skills slow enemies by a certain amount for 5 seconds. So anytime we use a landslide ability, they're going to be slowed. And the reason that we want this is because the Druid has a lot of crowd control damage in their Paragon Board, and you will be going to them nodes. So I would highly recommend it if you're looking for more damage. Now, when it comes to our chest piece, I didn't really have an aspect that I wanted to use on this build. There is definitely aspects out there, but the one that I wanted to use, I couldn't get it. And it's basically the new aspect called the Aspect of Juggernaught. So basically what that aspect does is that it gives you more armor, but your evade is increased by 100%. So you can get more armor, but your evade is going to be increased. But if you're playing as a druid, a trample slide druid at that, you can basically get rid of the whole cooldown completely. So basically what you need to have is a pair of boots that attacks reduce evades cooldown by 0.8 seconds. If your ability is on cooldown and you use any of your landslide abilities like Poison Creeper or Trample or anything, I can guarantee you right now that your evade is going to be always there for you, and you'll always have the high armor as well. So for your chest piece, I would recommend Juggernaught. It is going to be something that I'm going to be using end game, and I would recommend it. It's going to be very good, but if you have those boots to go with it, your evade is always going to be there for you. It's never going to be on cooldown because you're always going to be damaging enemies. So the next aspect that I use is the Aspect of Natural Balance. Casting a Storm skill grants your Earth skills increased critical strike damage. Casting an Earth skill increases your critical strike chance of your Storm skills. Very, very good aspect for the build that we're going with. Now, there is a unique in the game that I will be switching out. It's an arm piece as well, called the PainGorgers Gauntlets. I can only imagine that in the end game, those gauntlets are going to be very good, because what it does is that if you use any of your non-basic cast abilities, so trample, landslide, anything like that, it's going to mark the amount of enemies that are hit by that ability. And what it does is that if you just turn around and you attack them with a basic skill, you will do your basic skill damage on all the enemies that are marked. I feel like them gauntlets are going to make the Cronin not needed for this build whatsoever. If it's going to work the way that it says it works, the Cronin is not going to be needed, and it's going to open up new slots in this build. So I will be using PainGorgers in the future, but I'm going to be using the aspect of natural balance for now. So the next aspect that I use is the aspect of disobedience. You gain a certain amount of armor for 4 seconds when you deal any form of damage, that can up to 42%. Now, the thing is, if I have the Juggernaught aspect, I won't be using this aspect. But since I don't have that aspect, I'm using this aspect for now. So it's the aspect of disobedience. It just helps you out with your armor so you're able to survive longer. As I said, if when I get Juggernaught, I won't be using it. But until then, I will be using this. You don't need to use it, but it is very, very good. And the last aspect that I use is the Edgemasters Aspect. Skills deal up to 34% increased damage based on your available primary resource when cast, receiving the maximum benefit while you have full primary resource. Now, the reason that I have this one on my build is because we do not use resources whatsoever. You're never going to be using your spared on this class, so you're always going to have that at 100%. So it's very good to have. I would recommend it. Later on in the end game, I might switch this up because of the aspects that I'm using, but I will be using this for the time being. It's very good, and you will always have the uptime on it. Now, when it comes to the effects on your armor, it doesn't really matter. You're in the mid game. The ones that I would go for is cooldown reduction, total armor, damage, stuff like that on anything that you can get your hands on. Also, increasing your skills would be very, very beneficial as well. If you had some landslide, like, you know, plus landslide would be beneficial. Damage reduction, always good to have. Anything that will give you more damage and more armor is always good. So I would recommend it. All of my gear is kind of thrown together at the moment, but I would recommend armor pieces that have damage, critical damage, earth damage, just stuff like that. And damage reduction is always good. Now, the next thing that we're going to be talking about is the spared boons. So the first spared boon that you're going to be going for is Wariness. Take 10% reduced damage from elites. Very good boon to have, and it's just a very nice passive to get. Now, the second boon is going to be in the eagle slot. Now, this is the one that you're going to bond with to be able to pick 2 boons from it. So a lot of people like going for the talons boon, but I like swooping attacks because I don't have the Cronin staff yet. So swooping attacks definitely helps me out when I'm using my basic skill. But then you want to pick up Avian Rat. This boon basically got a buff where it's multiplicative, and you do want it for the high crit damage. Now, the next boon that you're going to be going for is the Pack Leader. Critical strikes have up to a 20% chance to reset the cooldowns of your companion skills. You will be proccing this a lot. Your Poison Creeper is going to be up basically 99% of the time because your landslides are always going to be doing crit damage. So I would recommend getting the Pack Leader boon. And the last boon that you're going to be taking is the Calm Before the Storm. Nature magic skills have up to a 10% chance to reduce the cooldown of your ultimate skill by 2 seconds. Our basic skill is a nature magic skill. Our hurricane skill is also a nature magic skill, and our trample is also a nature magic skill because of one of our aspects. So you will be getting this ultimate very fast if you keep proccing those abilities. So it's very nice to have, and I would recommend it for this build. So the next thing we're going to be talking about is our skill tree. You do not need to follow this skill tree down to the way I have it. You can switch up a few things if you feel like it will be better, but I would recommend the way I have this skill tree. So the first thing that we're going to be talking about is Stormstrike. We're going to be using this because it's a nature magic skill, and this is going to help us with our cooldowns big time. So I would recommend this skill. So you're going to be getting 1 rank in it, then you're going to be getting the enhanced Stormstrike just to have the chance to immobilize those enemies, and then you're going to be picking up Wild Stormstrike, where your Stormstrike chains to 2 additional targets. This is very good for when you want to get your cooldowns, because if you're attacking a lot of enemies and they're bunched up, it chains to more targets, which means that your cooldowns is going to be done faster. Now, if you didn't want to use Stormstrike, you could also use Wind Share, basically up to what you want to use, but I do feel like Stormstrike is the way to go. So the next ability that we're going to be talking about is Landslide. Now, I would recommend only putting 1 rank into Landslide, getting enhanced Landslide, and also getting primal Landslide. Now, the reason you want to get these is because the Terra modes work even if you don't have it on your bar. So basically, this is just going to be working in the background. It does work in the background, and it's just very good because you're going to be proccing Landslide with our other abilities, and you will be getting the benefits of the primal Landslide. Would recommend it. I know I have 2 ranks in Landslide, but you do not need the 2 ranks. I would recommend the 1 rank and just putting the other skill somewhere else. Then you're just going to come up above there, and you're going to be picking up Heart of the Wild to just get more spared. You won't be using spare, but you just need to pick this to get the next rank in Wild Impulses. Your core skills cost 9% more spared, but deal 15 increased damage. Now, the secret is we won't be using spared whatsoever. We're using other abilities to apply Landslide, which means that we're just going to be doing more damage passively. And when you have that, you're just going to be coming down here to Predatory Instinct. Critical strike chance against close enemies is increased by 6%. I would recommend the 3 ranks into that. And then you're going to be picking up Iron 4, where you gain 9% damage reduction while in bear form, and the bonus persists for 3 seconds after leaving bear form. You're going to be in bear form when you're using trample, and you will want the damage reduction. So I would recommend the 3 ranks in this as well. So the next skill that you're going to be going down to is our Bulwark, or Earthen Bulwark. So basically, you're going to be picking this up just to have a barrier around you that absorbs some of the damage on your character. Then you're going to be coming up and getting enhanced Earthen Bulwark as well, makes you unstoppable. And then you're going to be getting the Preserving Earthen Bulwark. Casting it will grant you a fortify of a certain amount of your maximum life. Very decent. If you do not want to go with this and you feel like you can take on a lot of damage, I would recommend going over and picking up the innate Earthen Bulwark, where it just helps out with your damage. Very good, and I would recommend it. And then when you're done there, you're just going to come down and pick up the Ancestral Fortitude, where you increase your non-physical resistance by 15%. Very decent. And then Vigilance, where you gain 15% damage reduction for 6 seconds after using a defensive skill. Bulwark is a defensive skill, so I would recommend it. So the next ability that we're going to be going down to is Poison Creeper. Poison Creeper is going to have a passive damage where it follows you around and it just poisons enemy, but then you can activate it. Now, we have the aspect that when we activate a Poison Creeper, we're going to be having landslides. So this is just very good to have. But not only that, Poison Creeper also immobilizes the enemies for a few seconds. So when you activate, the enemies are going to be immobilized, but then your Landslide is going to activate as well, and it's going to crush the enemies. It's very good to have, and I would highly recommend Poison Creeper for this build. Then you're going to come over and get Enhanced Poison Creeper, where the immobilized duration is increased by 1, and then you're going to get Brutal Poison Creeper. Your critical strike chance is increased by 20% against enemies strangled by Poison Creeper. The crit chance is going to be huge already, so this is definitely a bonus. I would recommend it. So when you have those picked up, you're going to be coming to your next ability, which is Hurricane. Hurricane is just very good because if you pick up that and enhance Hurricane, it slows down the enemies. But then you can pick up Savage Hurricane, where enemies affected by hurricane deal 20% less damage. So if you're close to a bunch of enemies and they're trying to damage you, you will have this to help you with your tankiness. And the next ability that we're going to be picking up right underneath that is Trample. Now, I would recommend only one rank into Trample. It's all you need because the main damage is going to be coming from the landslides. Now, you can, if you want, get enhanced Trample. I don't feel like it's worth having, but if you definitely want it, you can get it if you need it. But then you're going to be coming over and getting Crushing Earth. Earth skills deal 15% increased damage to slowed, stunned, immobilized, or knocked back enemies. So knocked back enemies is going to happen when you're using Trample. If you run into the enemies, they're going to be knocked back. Not only that, we also have the aspect that our Earth skills are going to slow enemies. Our Tramples, our Landslide is an Earth skill. And if we're using Trample, they're going to be damaged by the Earth, they're going to be slowed, they're going to take more damage. So it's very good. It synergizes together. Would recommend it. Then you're going to just come up there above it and you're going to get Safeguard. Critical strikes with Earth skills fortify you for 7% of your base life. You will be hitting crits a lot with this Landslide build. So I would recommend picking it up just to help you with your tankiness. But then you can come down to Stone Guard, and while you have Fortify for over 50%, which you will have a lot of your maximum life, your Earth skills deal increased damage. Highly recommended just for the damage. It's very good and you will need it. Now, if you come down underneath that, you're going to get the Neurotoxin, where poisoned enemies are slowed by 8%. This is just to help you out with your slowed. Your poison creepers will do this for you. And then underneath that is Venom. You and your companions gain 30% bonus critical strike damage against poison enemies. If you can get this effect on your amulet, where you can get another +3, you will be doing a lot of damage to poison enemies. I would highly recommend it. It's so good and it will help out a ton when it comes to dealing damage to bosses. Now, once you're done there, you're just going to come down and you're going to be picking up Cataclysm. This is going to be your ultimate. Once again, Nature's Fury is going to basically help out with the whole, like, you know, Cataclysm being on cooldown. So I would recommend picking this up. But then you're going to be picking up Prime Cataclysm, where it is increased for 4 seconds. Then you're going to be picking up Supreme Cataclysm, where lightning strikes from Cataclysm makes enemies vulnerable for 6 seconds. This is just to help out with making enemies vulnerable. Very good to have. Would recommend it. Then you're going to be coming up above that and you're going to be picking up Defiance. Nature magic skills deal 4% increased damage to elites. You're going to be picking up Natural Disaster, where your Earth skills deal more damage to vulnerable enemies, and your Storm skills do increase damage to your stunned enemies. So this is just very good to have. And then you're going to be picking up Resonance, where nature skills deal 6% increased damage. Triple this bonus if an Earth skill is the next skill cast after a Storm skill, or a Storm skill is the next skill cast after an Earth skill. Very good to have. Then you're going to be coming down to your passive, and you're going to be picking up Nature's Fury. Casting an Earth skill has a 30% chance to trigger a free Storm skill with the same category, and vice versa. In addition, these free skills count as both Earth and Storm skills. Now, once you have all of that, you can do the Paragon. Now, you can follow my Paragon board, or you can go with a different Paragon board. I have literally no glyphs slotted in this yet. So, as I said, this is a mid-game build. I will have a video up as the end game, but if you want to follow my board right now, I do take like a lot of damage because I want to do more damage with my skills. Then you're going to be picking the heightened malice, like, you know, legendary node. You're going to be putting over to your left so you can get as fast as possible, where you do more damage with more poison enemies around you. Poison creeper is definitely going to help out with that. But then you're going to come up and get more poison damage with this. Then you're going to come over to the left and get more poison damage. Then you're going to be coming back down and you're going to be going upwards. Now, you're going to be going off left to a different Paragon board altogether. Just haven't slotted one yet. But then you're going to come off to the right and you're going to be getting a damage reduction from poisoned enemies. You're going to be coming down and you'll have another glyph to socket. But then you'll be picking up more damage to poisoned enemies. And then I have it that you come down and you go onto the next board. Now, the next board that you will be picking up is Earth and Devastation, because you will be using a lot of Earth skills. But when you come in, you're going to just be going up, and you're going to get this one where you do more damage to crowd controlled enemies. Very nice to have. Would recommend it. Then you're going to be coming down to the actual legendary node. You're going to be picking it up because you do more damage versus crowd control enemies. You know, you will be doing a lot of damage when it comes to that. Then you're going to be coming back up, and you're going to be just picking up more resist to all elements, just to help you out with your tankiness. Then you're going to come down and get more critical strike damage with earth skills because of landslide. Then you're going to be going up, and you will be going towards more of the earth skill and the critical strike damage to crowd control. So that's basically the way I have my build at the moment. You can see that it does work out very well. And with the stuff that I said in this video, I feel like this build is going to be top tier in tier 100. Like, I will be doing Nightmare Dungeons 154 the second I can do it, and I will be making a video on it showing the potential that this build definitely has. But if you liked what you saw and you want to help out the channel, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you for the next one. Thank you and goodbye.